Should the Wolves just straight up be like, you're the best player available at 17, I'm going to take you? Or is it more about fits, or is it more about timeline, meeting the timeline for Anthony Edwards? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, having the 31st pick to me means the 17th pick is very tradable. Um, I don't think there's all that much drop off in talent from about 11 to about 35 in most NBA drafts. I think they're all like, it's all sort of a crapshoot from those points. Like there's a couple elite guys, and then you're kind of just guessing. I would go with best player, but who knows? Like if let's say we do a Kevin Durant trade, so we're kind of, I wouldn't say putting all our eggs in a basket, but we're kind of going in that direction, or we're speeding up the timeline, like you're talking about. And if there's a role player that comes in and is like a knockdown shooter, and that's something we need, I would lean that direction over a guy who maybe has the most potential. I think at that pick in 17, you want to find a guy that has an NBA quality that is at least plug and play at that spot, and you hope for others. Shooting for potential that low is real boom or bust. So I would say best player available is kind of hard to say. I would say like the most impactful player for your team available,
Okay.
and then go from there.
So the first guy I'll bring up is forward from UConn. He is a freshman, Liam McNeely. What I got out of the research, in fact, USA Today has us taking him at 17. USA Today Sports. He's a pure wing, great shooter off the screen, made 40%, not a great athlete and inconsistent, struggles to create his own shot off isolation, great rebounder, high basketball IQ. And then a couple more things here. He seems like a very good shooter off movements, like coming off screens, almost like a Malik Beasley kind of things, especially from flare screens, spot ups when he's balanced. Some of his weaknesses: below average field goal efficiency, 38.1%, and inconsistent 3-point shooting, 31.7%. He's not an elite athlete and has a limited pull-up game. Your thoughts on McNeely?
I mean, I like a wing that's 6'8". We have a real talent drought on our roster from about 6'5" to about 6'9". You know, like we don't have anybody that really fills that role as like traditional small forward size. Jaden is probably the only one we have that's even in that height category type thing. So a small forward is definitely something I would look for. I like a guy that, is a ball mover. He's not just an ISO scorer. He can score off the ball. That sounds great. It's a crapshoot, but he went to Monteverde Academy, which is kind of like, already a college. So he's been in the system. I'm guessing that he knows how to play, So that is a huge plug and play type guy. And if we lose somebody like Nique, we lose a lot of that off ball shooting, and we're going to have to fill it with somebody. So
Right.
yeah, I would think that would be definitely a direction that I would not be mad at if he has this NBA quality shooting. But then the weakness is they say that he doesn't have great shooting. So who knows? I haven't watched enough tape.
He said inconsistent shooter, so he can shoot, but a little bit inconsistent. The numbers don't pop up the page. I mean, remember last year, Rob Dillingham was shooting like 40% from three, and that was the big thing that everyone was talking about, was how great of a shooter he was. Although I think that McNeely might be a little more NBA ready. He reminds me a little bit of a guy that we were looking at last year who didn't have a huge first year, mainly because he was drafted by the Boston Celtics. He reminds me of a little bit of Bailey Shireman a little bit. I see a little bit of him in that, and who knows where his career goes. It's not fair to be drafted to the Boston Celtics and be labeled a bust right away.
Not a lot of opportunity for impact on that roster, right?
Right. Like you want to say that Rob Dillingham didn't get much of a go. Bailey Shireman barely had any of a go with the Boston Celtics. So if we want to talk about replacing Nickeil Alexander-Walker, I'll throw you another prospect, Nique Clifford from Colorado State. He's a fifth-year senior, defensive guy. Basically what I picked up through reading scouting reports and listening to Ben Beacon is he's a jack of all trades, but a master of none. Like, he's not fantastic at any one thing. Ben Beacon says he's good in transition, a decent catch and shoot, not awesome at everything, but pretty good at everything. And then here's what he brought up is if you take him, it could be a sign that we're not bringing back Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and this could mean that he could almost be the replacement for Nickeil Alexander-Walker in the short term. Now, can you trust a rookie to replace a guy like Nickeil Alexander-Walker? Not necessarily 100%, but he is an old rookie, almost kind of like Terrence Shannon Jr., who's actually older than Anthony Edwards. When this next season starts, this guy will be a 24-year-old. So I almost could see the Wolves taking a chance on Nique because maybe they want to build directly with Anthony Edwards' timeline. And maybe they learned from last year, drafting a guy like Rob Dillingham, maybe he won't progress at the same rate as a guy like Terrence Shannon Jr. And maybe you can bring in this Nique Clifford and be, hey, let's build a little core right here. He might not have the most upside, but he might have more immediate upside. Your thoughts?
Well, no, I mean, I think that's exactly what they did with Terrence Shannon Jr. last year is, the upside's not there at all, but you know what you have. And if you have something that you can plug and use, maybe not year one, but year two, like Dillingham was known that he's probably not playing year one or year two, like he's a 3 or 4 year down the road guy because he's 19. And we're trying to win NBA championships. That just doesn't happen very often. But this guy we're talking about here, the guy from Colorado College there, I mean,
Colorado State,
I'm sorry, Colorado State.
That's all right.
I think four assists a game. I think he had almost like 9 rebounds. Like, you give me a wing that is going to give you a lot of effort and be a secondary passer and be a aggressive rebounder. That's a role that I like right off the bat.
Right. Yeah. You did mention it. Almost 10 rebounds a game as a 6'6" guard or combo guard. That's pretty impressive. And he has improved every single year that he's played. And like I said, disclaimer, I haven't watched his whole career like we were mentioning, but his first year at Colorado, which was about 5 years ago, probably during COVID times, he averaged 1 point a game. And he's progressed year after year after year. Obviously, a school change too. Colorado State led them to the tournament last season. He's a good transition scorer with solid open court athleticism. And some of the weaknesses that they do list here: doesn't explode past defenders, more smooth than shifty, tends to struggle against defensive pressure. Although I will say, in this offense, I don't think he'll have much in that capacity with all the attention that Julius Randle and Anthony Edwards attract. I don't know if he'll have much double teams or on ball.
He's 23 and he's going to be drafted after the lottery. Like, we're not looking at a guy that's got a future probably of being an all-star, and that's okay because you can't have a roster of 15 soon-to-be all-stars or else you can't afford them. So if you have a guy that gives you like Josh Giddey light type ability offensively, where you can run some plays through him and he'll crash the glass and he'll hustle and he'll be a scrapper, sign me up for that, And if he's been through the heat of, the college season over and over again, he's a little more game ready. I would say definitely put him on the burner as a possibility.
Right. And another thing I will say, I do like, I'm looking at the Yahoo Sports draft analysis, and there's 2 concerns I don't think are big concerns, particularly on our team. They may be concerns on a team like the Wizards or something like that. But his two concerns are level of college competition, which, okay, fair. He played at Colorado State.
We can't
And
change that.
age, him being 24, which, like I was saying, as a Timberwolf, might actually be a positive. Be on the same schedule as Terrence Shannon Jr. and Anthony Edwards and an aging Rudy Gobert and an older Julius Randle and Mike Conley and Dante DiVincenzo. We are not in an era, I feel like, that we need super young guys. Like super, which is what we did last year with our first pick with Dillingham. Now we had the insurance with Terrence Shannon Jr. later on in the draft. But I don't know. I feel like he could be a good fit. And before I throw it to you, I just want to give Yahoo Sports comparisons. Chris Middleton, Josh Hart, Desmond Bane. If he turns into any of those,
I'll take any one of those three.
I'll take any of them. That's fine.
Yeah. No, I say, I say if he's there, it would be definitely somebody I would take a look at.
Let's talk about Danny Wolf, junior 7-footer from Michigan. And this quote from hoopshype.com. And I can't believe that we're talking about a guy that you suggested with this quote. He said, a big Kyle Anderson. So here's what I got after looking through some scouting reports. Not great athleticism, high number of turnovers. His turnovers was actually 1-to-1 assists to turnover ratio, but he's a great pick and roll man. And half of his points came as the guy getting the screen on the pick and roll. So he's pretty good at coming off screens and shooting. Not a great jumper, can't guard in space too much. But it looks like when he does guard defenders, he's not playing the drop coverage like Rudy Gobert from the tape that I see. It seems like he's playing a much more right on him kind of defense. So another strength, he dominates the glass, almost 10 rebounds per game, 85th percentile in defensive rebounding. Rim protection is in the 80th percentile, handles the ball well for his size. I mean, you can look, some of his highlights almost
He's
look
Jokic. Here, I'll break it down to you. I bet you this breakdown is very similar to what they would have said about Jokic. He's that type of player. Like, he's a guy that at 7 foot is kind of running point for Michigan. He's leading the Big Ten in rebounding as kind of a not very athletic white dude. That's a decent league to lead the league in rebounding, which is something that we need. He's a legit 7 foot. He doesn't have like, Karl Anthony Towns type range, but it's coming. And he knows that that's what he's going to have is range, to be effective at this level. So I'm not worried about that. I think he would be the type of guy that would be an interesting change of pace to bring in. Like, so if he's your backup center, it's kind of like when Nas would come in and we would have things specifically like a package for Nas because he was unique. It could be like that, where he's another man who could give you a mismatch. And if you're drafting as low as we are, and this could be 31, 17, like I said, all these picks are all kind of a wash to me. To get a guy that can come in and give you something that would give the other team maybe trouble, hey, that's interesting enough for me.
I do like this quote as well. Uses strength and footwork to score with a high quality Dirk style fade.
Yeah,
so he's got a little Dirk Nowitzkiism. Nowitzki. And before I throw it to you, let me say one more thing. Even some of the negatives were a little awkward when he runs a little bit lungy a little bit. But like you were saying, who else is super awkward when he runs? Nikola Jokic.
He was also said that some things I've read about him was he was one of the fastest big men in college, like to get down court, like running the rim. So he's like a try-hard 7-footer who moves the ball and rebounds well. Sign me up. Anybody who's willing to pass the ball is a fan of me.
The only negative I see with that is He is a high turnover guy. Like I said, 1-to-1 turnover ratio with Michigan. Now, obviously, is he going to have the ball as much?
No.
As he did in Michigan? No. But I mean, I'll throw it to you this as well. To be honest, Naz Reid is for a post is a pretty high turnover guy as well. We've seen him make mistakes, get the ball pointed away, make some dumb passes. So that worries me a little bit if you're going to play them side by side to have two high turnover prone forwards or centers in there. But I do see the upside as well on that.
There's probably not a center in the NBA that has a positive turnover to assist percentage. Like, bigs are always turning the ball over and never getting assists. The difference is he gets assists, so he at least, like, if you're ranking him as like a point guard, yeah, 1-to-1's pretty bad. But I would have to assume like a lot of centers are, getting 2 assists a game and having 3 turnovers,
Sure. I get that. I get that. I did see him mocked more towards the 31st pick than the 17th, but who knows? Who knows? Maybe he'll be a good pick there. I mean, to be honest, 31 is one pick out of the first round. So it's not
the same. If there's a guy you want, you take him, like if who cares if he's mocked at 30? Yeah, at this point, like I said, I think it's kind of a crapshoot. I bet you I'd love to see the accuracy of mock drafts after about the 15th pick. It's probably, just a crapshoot.
Right. So let's move forward. Let's go with another guard here that with the same kind of thing as Nique Clifford, but you'll recognize the last name on this one, Jase Richardson. Yes, son of slam dunk champion Jase Richardson, and a lot more. I mean, Jase Richardson was a great NBA player. What stands out for him, great jump shooter, 41% from 3, great off the dribble, 43%, great finisher at the rim, not really a table setter, but can make some plays as well. What Ben Beacon was saying, and I started thinking about this a lot, he said that the only reason to draft Jase Richardson out of Michigan State is if you think after 1 year that Rob Dillingham isn't the answer, because he's another super young, super talented, undersized guard. And basically what you're saying is we don't think that Dillingham is going to develop into the player that he was supposed to, or at least with this team, we don't think he's going to develop into that kind of player. And one thing before I throw it to you, a lot of comparisons that I saw through watching scouting reports is Mike Conley, a young Mike Conley, got thrown out a lot for him. So your thoughts on drafting kind of a smaller shooting guard / point guard in Jase Richardson?
Yeah, I saw some Monte Ellis comps, which I like. This guy's fast, like lightning first step. Kind of everything that we talked about, like you said, about Dillingham. I think he's a little bigger than him, maybe, but
a little bit,
but not much. I think this is the type of player that Tim Connelly likes to have on the roster. The problem is we have 2 of them currently in Bones Highland and Rob Dillingham on the roster, and I don't think you need more than 1. So it's possible that Dillingham's going to be part of a trade package. I think he has probably more value than the 17th pick does, maybe in this pick draft. I'm not sure. But if he does, and it pushes a trade through, then I would love to see a guy like this on the roster, because I think we need that sort of downhill explosion to go next to Anthony Edwards. So it's not just one guy that puts pressure on the rim. It was something that, we've been hoping for years and talking about even before the Karl Anthony Towns trade. So Julius Randle gave us some of that rim pressure, but Dillingham, hopefully this coming year will be able to, but if not, if he's traded, this type of downhill point guard possible, like point guard, shooting guard combo, seems like a nice fit next to Anthony Edwards.
It would. Although it's the same thing we said about Rob Dillingham last year, to be honest.
Yep.
And like you said, a little bit taller than Rob Dillingham, but definitely if you're taking Jase Richardson, you're starting over with the Rob Dillingham experience. It's almost like 2.0. It didn't work. And like you said, Dillingham could definitely be traded somewhere else this offseason. We don't know what they're going to do. The only thing, like I said, worries me about him a little bit is just being that young and being that small, and just the timeline stuff. Like, just I don't know how well he fits in with our timeline. He may, but we'll have to see. We'll have to see going forward. Let's get to some big man. Just got about two left to go here. Thomas Sorber, center from Georgetown, freshman. He was the 56th ranked player last year in the ESPN 100. And what stands out, his wingspan is 7'6". NBA draft net comparison, Vin Baker or a Roy Hibbert. So Ben Beacon said about him, great offensive rebounder and great passer. Huge wingspan, not a great switchable defender, and not a great athleticism, not very quick. And then my question was, if Nas leaves, like let's say he signs with different teams, which Tim Connelly said that he does expect him and Randall back next year. We don't know if that's just him talking or if that's actually what's going to happen. If Nas leaves, do we want two big men? Presumably. Now, there are trades that can be made. There are free agents, stuff like that. Do we want two big men who can't shoot in Rudy Gobert and Thomas Sorber, assuming if Nas leaves? Also, there is also the fact that he did suffer he had foot surgery in February, and he didn't play the rest of the year. Not a great three-point shooter, not a great roller. He did average 14 points a game, but only shot 16% from three. Your thoughts on a big, long wingspan big man like Thomas Sorber?
He seems like like kind of a safe plug and play. He's at least going to give you energy, some rim, like the classic Georgetown big guy, Theo Ratliff type defender. Not a bad pick, high floor, probably low ceiling. But like you were saying, it all depends on what's happening. Like, are we getting ready? If Rudy Gobert's traded, then maybe someone like this, that if we think he's going to be a defensive anchor, could be somewhere to go. But if we keep Rudy, then no, I have no interest in this.
I agree.
Because I think we need a little more skill set. I know that his jump shooting has been a little promising. Like his free throw percentage, I think, was okay. And he was starting to stretch it out a little bit, his jump shot. But, the NBA now, you need more skill. Like, you just need more skill. And I think these type of big men that are just kind of athletic, rebounding, kind of defensive dudes, and that's it. I think they're going to be able to be found a dime a dozen if needed. And what you have to do with big men now is, I think you need to have a big man that is a legit skilled player, or else it's kind of a waste.
Right.
I know there's a guy that's been floating all around the draft boards, that Derek Queen guy out of Maryland. I've seen him mocked down in the 15th range. He's a big that has talent and skill, I think if you're going big, that's why I kind of like that Wolf is. I think you have to be a threat to the other team, or else it's hard to get NBA minutes.
And that's what's so great about having a guy like Naz Reid, who can score in the post, right? You can give him the ball and he can hit a little hook shot or dream shake. But on the other end, he's a threat from behind the three-point line as well, where you got to be a more versatile scorer. Even if, let's say, this Sorber guy is better around the rim, maybe a better finisher on alley-oops or a better finisher in the dunker spot. First of all, Anthony Edwards isn't a great alley-oop thrower anyway. He's not. That's not really his game whatsoever. Other guys find Rudy Gobert for alley-oops. And I just don't see, after watching some tape on him, I don't see the Wolves going to him like they do with Nas in post-up opportunities. The college game is just so much different than the NBA game, and a lot of old heads, and to their credit, a lot of people who watch the NBA or basketball like the college game better because it's more like 90s basketball where it's get into the post and let them go. But I could see him struggling on the next level. His NBA comparison, even his NBA comparisons, Vin Baker and Roy Hibbert, those are two relics of the past, really. I'm not saying they were good, they weren't good players, but I don't know. Roy Hibbert fell off really fast once the NBA started changing.
That's a comp you don't want, is Roy Hibbert, especially if you're not 7'2". Like Roy Hibbert was, what gave him the most value was that he was an absolute mountain of a human being. This guy isn't that. Yeah, I mean, I would say no to him if I had that chance.
Okay, one more prospect to talk about, and then we'll make our pick with the 17th pick in the NBA draft. Asa Newell, forward from Georgia. The Wolves have had some success drafting players from Georgia, one in particular. He's 6'11", wingspan freshman, was ranked 13th in the ESPN 100 out of Monte Verde Academy in Florida. Some of the things said about him: Ben Beacon, he gave him a Brandon Clark comp. NBA DraftNet gave him a Drew Gooden, David Lee kind of comp. Over 70% on the rim, motor on the offensive glass, great offensive rebounder, not great on the roll. He's kind of a high floor, low ceiling kind of player who almost, to me, kind of looks like almost a little bit of a taller Jared Vanderbilt from watching tape on him, which could be a good pickup at 17. Has elite shot blocking, strong help defender, switchable on defense, excellent finisher around the rim. Another thing, he's not really a great three-point shooter. He's willing to shoot the three, unlike the Sorber guy, but he doesn't really shoot well from three. He only 29% from three. And let's be honest, with a guy like Julius Randle, who last season shot somewhere around 32% from three, you throw him into that, and then a guy who's only shooting 29% in college, I don't know. I see him as kind of a Vanderbilt, a bigger Vanderbilt, and nothing else. I don't know what you think of this guy, but I had to throw him in there.
You know, I kind of like him. You know,
you
give me, again, a guy at 17 that can come and give me defensive impact and energy that's 6'10", 6'11", with springy bounce. Like, that's like when Clark comes into the game for Memphis, you feel it, you know?
Sure.
Like, you know that guy's in the game because the game changes. If you can have a guy that you draft at 17, and he's a young kid, so who knows what he'll be, and he can come in and be a defender and rebound hard and protect the rim, I don't hate that. You know, like, that's a guy that you can get 10 minutes a game as a playoff player. Like, that's what we're looking at. Like, I'm not thinking that this guy is going to be an all-star. I'm looking for guys that hopefully in 3 years will be giving me 15 productive minutes a game, you know?
Right. And it does say he is a willing shooter, kind of like Julius Randle, just not the best shooter out there.
Well, he's 19.
Right. He is 19. Yeah. And
give him 5 years. We'll see that jumper. He could be shooting 40% for three by then. Like, to be honest, I would have to eye test him. What I need to see is how these people move. Like, if they move like they're an athlete, that's a huge plus for me. If their jump shot looks like it's a real jump shot, that's a huge plus for me. If it's going in or not, sometimes it doesn't matter, you know, at the college level, because there's other variables. But if you don't look like you're moving like an athlete, like Carlton Towns doesn't look like he moves like an athlete, that's a negative, you know? Like, so I would have to see these guys. But just from those, I like him. I like what I heard.
Okay. So let's say all these players are here at 17. Let's say or even another player that you like. With the 17th pick in the 2025 NBA draft, the Minnesota Timberwolves select who?
I'll go with Danny Wolf. I'll go with my big center.
Okay.
I think that sort of ball movement and I think that sort of rebounding is something that is going to be valued at a high level. And his pure size at 7 feet, if we end up moving Rudy Gobert, which I think we're going to do, we're going to need somebody who is just big. Because there's a couple centers in the league that we will run into that you just need a big, large human being to go up against, and he'll be that for us.
Right. And I am going to go with Nique Clifford because I'm writing this whole good, not great, and that's good enough for me. Yeah. Like, I don't need someone to jump off the page, be crazy athletic, be an amazing NBA player. We just need good role players. And I was watching, I wish I could give credit to who was rating it, but I don't remember who it was. But he basically said that he's good at a lot of things, not really great at anything, but he's not going to let you down. He's just going to be a solid NBA player. And I like his two-way ability almost as particularly if we get rid of Nickeil Alexander-Walker, if he doesn't re-sign with us, I like slotting him in there and giving him a chance. I like his age on the same projection as Terrence Shannon Jr. and Anthony Edwards, basically the same age when next season starts. So I got to go Nique Clifford.
Nine boards a game and almost 5 assists. Off a wing player is insane. Like that is the college game to have 4 assists is a lot. Like that's not you don't have to apologize for that pick. That's a great, I think.
Also you were mentioning our hole from about 6'5" to 6'9". This guy's 6'6" and 205 pounds.
With a 6'10" wingspan. So I mean he's right there, 6'7", 6'8". Yeah, he's there.
Right. So I'm going with Nique Clifford. He's going with Danny Wolf. Let us know in the comments who you want the Wolves to take. We gave you some options. It can be way out of left field. It can be someone we've never heard of. Throw it at us. You could even say that the Wolves are going to move up to number 1 in a blockbuster trade with Dallas and take Cooper Flagg. Let us know in the comments below. We want to know what you think. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe on YouTube and give us a 5-star rating on Spotify and or Apple. And as always, go Wolves.